So I get asked all of the time, why Clydesdales? And the short answer is go big or go home. Come on, come on, good. Hop, 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 hop. This is Dozer. She is a 8-year-old mare. Here's Finnegan. And we think he's about somewhere between 22 and maybe 24, 25. Finnegan weighs in at about 2,200 pounds. And Dozer here weighs in at about 2K. Right, baby girl? Yeah. What are you doing? No. Quit. But really, the reason I wanted Clydesdales was for several reasons. First, we'll just talk aesthetics. Hey, baby girl. I like the rounded look of the nose, of the face, more than that chiseled feature you'd see with like a thoroughbred or a quarter horse. I love the feathers on their feet, their bell bottoms, even though it's a pain in the butt to keep clean and mite-free, especially in mud season. And I just like the overall bulky size and like look of the draft. With their temperament, they tend to be a little bit more docile. They're gentle giants for the most part. Dozer here might be the exception, even though she looks pretty sweet right now. I can tell you you're in the mood. Yeah, you're in the mood. I can tell. You know how I tell Mama? Since I can tell. As far as their temperament goes, Clydesdales tend to be a little bit more bomb-proof under saddle. So they're a little more even-keeled. They're not going to spook as easily. And if they do, they're so big, it's like sitting in a Cadillac. There's not all of this jumpiness and bounciness. And they really are gentle giants. Dozer here is kind of the exception. She's named Dozer for a reason, because she's a bulldozer. But they're gentle giants. They really just are very sweet and calm and not as spooky as some of the other horses. I had a very bad experience. I was test riding a horse, and I found this mare that was a Belgian quarter cross named Foxy. I got on this horse and we started test riding around this arena, and she took off with me on her back, full gallop, and the arena doors were open, and she took me out of the arena and we were headed for fences. I've only had a handful of lessons. I'm not a hunter jumper horse rider. And I wasn't confident in my ability to jump this fence with this horse. Plus, who knows if she would complete the jump, if she would rear or what. So very quickly I calculated my options and decided to make an emergency exit. I was leaning back to kind of give myself some stability, and I looked down and unhooked my feet out of the stirrups, because heaven forbid they get caught and you get dragged. And as I'm riding at this full gallop, fence is coming, I just swung my left leg over and jumped off, and because of the momentum and the speed we were traveling, when I hit the ground I hit hard and it just rolled me. And I remember laying there and looking up right away in the distance that she was running, or in the direction she was running, and thinking, is she coming back to run me over? And she didn't, thankfully. She ran off, but I broke my pelvic bone, and I was pretty sure I was going to be done with horses, which is why the next day I hobbled my way to the barn where Dozer lived, handed over a check for the full total of her cost, and bought her, because I knew that if I let myself sit on it too much longer, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have these guys. So, bomb-proof is good. Come on. Very good. Very good. So how I came to find Dozer, who is on the far right of this picture, my friend surprised me with a Clydesdale ride for my birthday. I did not ride Dozer, my friend did, but after riding a different black mare and seeing Dozer, I was very interested in the two, and so at the end of the ride, I asked if they were for sale. And the short of it is, I couldn't afford the one I was riding, so I test rode Dozer, and I chose her. So I worked with her over the course of 6 to 7 months. I had never owned a horse before. I went to the barn regularly for some riding lessons and also just to observe her living habits, her environment. I purchased her and boarded her there and brought her home. We didn't have any other horses at the time. Dozer was the first, so it was a big adjustment for her. She came from a barn of about 20 horses or so. We actually brought Dozer home much sooner than expected. The barn that she was living at, all of the horses were colicking all at once, and it was this big sort of epidemic. So I ended up getting her out of there sooner than later, slamming the stalls together. I flew my dad out from Minnesota, and we brought her home right away. Finnegan I rescued from a local last chance auction. Like I said, Dozer was really unhappy being the single horse, and so we needed to get something quickly. I'd been browsing around for Clydesdales. I wanted to keep with the same breed, hadn't found anything. And I remember on a Tuesday night, I was just browsing my phone before going to bed, and I checked this auction site, which I hadn't really browsed through before. And lo and behold, there's this Clydesdale, and on the sale video, after the guy was done riding Finnegan, he stood up on his back to show how even-tempered he was. And I thought, that is the horse that I want. The thing is, it was Tuesday night, and Finnegan was going up for auction the next day. I was also on bed rest for pregnancy. I called the stable, the auction house, and I asked for any additional videos, images, or history that they could give me, since I wasn't going to be able to check Finnegan out before I purchased him. They sent me these videos here, very thorough, because they do want their horses to go to a good home. And I sent all of the material and the paperwork that I received to my vet, to my friends, to my farrier, and I said, look, is this crazy? I think I'm going to bid on this horse without even meeting him. And they said, you know, his hooves, he hardly has any hooves in place. The auction house told me that he had scratches. He was partially blind in one eye, and I just had this gut feeling that this was the horse that, despite these slight challenges, he was meant to come home to our farm. Upon bringing Finnegan home, we did discover that he had sort of a challenging history. His hooves weren't well cared for at all. He had a respiratory infection from traveling so much from auction house to auction house. His teeth had never been filed, so he had hooks and ramps on his teeth, puncturing his mouth while he chewed. He had a lot of issues as a sign of neglect, unfortunately. So the other reason I have these guys here is because aesthetics, their disposition and behavior, and then also I wanted some more functionality with the horse other than just me getting to love on them all the time and riding. I actually want to use them for some light plowing around the farm. We have. I have not had any lessons in driving the horses, so this is something that I'm learning as I go. With a lot of books and videos and instruction from people when I do find them to give me some insight. But I am self-taught, just like everything else on this farm. We believe Finnegan to be an Amish horse. He's extremely well broke and has obvious plowing experience. Dozer, though we got her at a trail riding farm, actually very much prefers not to be ridden, and she does need a lot of training. So we do water training, a lot of hand walking, lunging, riding training, plowing training. These guys definitely keep me busy. I would not have it any other way. I absolutely love my Clydesdales despite their feed costs, and they're going to be with me for life.